If you remember the last video I did on the ASOS shoes where we shined them up to a nice shine there, a mirror shine, and then this happened. So consequently we're on to a new build. G'day all, in this video what I'll do is I'll do something different to this pair of ASOS shoes. These shoes did feature in a video I did some months ago, so check that one out. But what has happened between then and now is, for some reason known only to the cat involved, that they wanted to use this particular pair of shoes as some form of scratch post. So it was giving me a chance anyway to do something a little bit different. So what I've decided to do is do a finish that resembles a burnish, so a black burnish. So what I'm after, so that is obviously the before, and what we're trying to do is turn it into this. Okay, so I'll step you through the process that I used to create this finish. Also added the black laces there, just to add a little bit more black to the shoe. So I'll step through it and see how it finishes up on the other one there. So I think this is a really good result, and that's just a brush shine, so I haven't done a mirror shine on that as yet. And I probably won't, I'll probably just leave it as a brush shine, because what I do is I'm going to plan on selling these anyway, so it'd be much easier for the new owner to keep these as a brush shine. There's a lot more upkeep involved in a mirror shine, especially when you start getting you know, some sort of abrasions on the actual mirror shine itself. So I'll keep it nice and simple. The finish applied from the polishes that I used is awesome, so it's a really good finish. So we'll step through it and see if we can replicate the finish on the new shoe. Alrighty, let's quickly step through on the equipment that we're going to need for it. So obviously, to take the shoe back to its unfinished state, we're going to need to clean all of the wax that we did before. I know it's heartbreaking, but we're going to take all of the wax polish off that we've painstakingly applied, take it back to the leather state, and then work on it from there. So we're going to use the following bits of equipment. Right, so to take the shoe back to its finish, we're going to use a leather preparer and deglazer. You can also use acetone, and we may even use some more acetone on the shoe if we start running low on that. You can also use a saddle soap as well, in conjunction with a stiff brush as well. So you may need to use both, just depending on how the shoe gives up its finishes of polish. From there we'll apply some black dye, and we'll use cotton buds or cotton tips to do that. And then we're also going to apply a light brown leather dye, and then we're also going to apply a black luster cream as well, and also a brown luster cream. We're going to use a leather balm, and we're going to finish it off with a light brown wax polish. And of course, to help us out with all of that coats of polish, is also the use of a horsehair brush. And my favourite bit of equipment, if you've seen my videos before, is to use a stocking for the high gloss buff off as our very last step, and that actually makes the world of a difference. Right, so let's get on to stripping back. So we're going to apply the deglazer or acetone, and you can see that it goes on, and it'll start straight away start stripping through the polish, and I'll take it back to the bare leather state. So that's what I'll do, is I'll do that on the whole shoe, and depending on how well it goes, it can be rather quick, and depends on how resistant the polish is. As you can see there, it's starting to strip through it quite easily, so that's pretty good. I'll continue on and I'll show you how we go with it. Righto, so we've stripped the shoe back. What I'll do now is just give it a little bit of time to dry before we go on with the next step. Right, so for the next part, what we're going to do is use a cotton bud or cotton tip, dip that in the leather dye, and we're using Wapro black leather dye, and then just going to run the cotton tip around the welt, and then also just around the stitching. Okay, so that'll be my next step to do, and then I've also got this area of black around here as well. So I'll go through and do that now. Right, so there we go. So the black stripe around the exterior turned out really well. It's quite easy to do. And we'll just go on with the areas around the stitching. Righto, so we finished doing all of the blacked areas with the dye. I'm just going to let that dry a little bit more before we go on with the next step. And I tend not to worry too much about if you can see some little bits of the stitching, because it's going to be well and truly fixed up on the next step. Righto, so almost finished all of the black dye work. I'm just going to do the little bit on the toe. You can see on this part here, so I've used the I'll use the actual press holes in the leather there as a guide to how I'm going to fill in the dye mark on the toe. So that's just a good tip there if you're going to plan on doing a project like this, and you want to try and keep some symmetry to your shoes, because they are a pair. Just have some sort of guide on how you're going to make it form some sort of symmetry. Okay, and it doesn't have to be 100% exact, because we can fix it up, like I said, on the next step. Righto, for this next bit, we're going to use the black luster cream, and what we're going to do is just apply it onto the cloth here, just using our finger, and go over the areas that we just dyed. Sand the outside. I'm not going to touch the line on the outside, so just the lines around the stitching, and also here. And we're just going to, what we're doing now is we're going to create a or further enhance the burnishing on here. So it's not going to really matter if we go outside of the lines here, and what we want to try and do is replicate also the patterns that we've placed on there. So the little bits of black on either side there, just try and replicate that. This is part of the burnishing. And at the heel here, what we're going to do is just place a light sort of coating as well, just with the luster cream. Right, so I finished all the burnishing. So like I said, it doesn't really matter if you go straight outside the lines there on the seam, because that'll be well fixed up when we move around, and it'll add to the effect. Actually, it'll add to the burnishing effect. So it's something that you desire, not something, you know, that's a mistake. It actually adds to the appearance of the shoe. Right, next step is we're going to apply the light brown leather dye. And the Angelus leather dyes are good because they come in that bottle, which is inside this container, and it has a little section that you can sit down and place the bottle into, so it just keeps it steady, and so you're not prone to tip it over. And they also come with the actual polish or dye applicator as well. So we just place it into the dye bottle there, just press it against the side to let the excess run off it, and then we're just going to apply it to the shoe, and we're going to go all over the polished areas as well. So those black areas that we applied with the cream and the dye go straight over the top of it. And I'll do this to the whole shoe. Right, so there we are. We've applied 2 coats of the leather dye, and we're just going to let that soak in and dry before we move on to the next step. And that so to dry, that takes probably, it's the longest part of the process. It'll probably take around about 4 to 8 hours to dry. So that's what we'll do. We'll just set it to the side and let it do its thing, and then come back to it. Okay, all the polish, we've given it time to dry, and it's done its job. It's nice and dry now. We can go on and add the next step. Now the next step is, because we've taken the leather back to its bare state, and we've placed on some harsh chemicals. What we're going to do now is add a conditioner, or in this case a leather balm, over the whole shoe. We might even add 2 coats of that, just to put some nutrients back into the leather and make it more supple. Righto, so it's been a couple of hours now since I applied the leather balms. What I'll do now is just give it a brush, the horsehair brush. Now, the good thing I like about Angelus leather balm, I've said this on a few of my videos as well, is just the finish that you get just by off brushing it is a high gloss in itself. You can see the difference there. And I'll just continue on to go through and do the whole shoe. Righto, so the whole shoe's been buffed off. That's from the leather. Righto, so nearing the end of the process now. Now it's the brown luster cream. I'm going to put that all over the entire surface, including the areas that we've placed the black polish and dye on. And we're going to rub that in. So I'll place the polish on, let it sit briefly, and then buff it off. And what I'll do is I'll put 3 or 4 coats on. It's always good to do that. It builds up a foundation for the wax polish to work with. So I'll go ahead and do that. Right, so there we have 3 coats of the brown luster cream, and it brings up the Angelus polishes. Are really good polishes. So now that's a really good finish in itself. But we're going to apply the shoe wax polish over the top of that. Okay, the reason I like to apply wax polish is that's the final coat, and it does a pretty good job of keeping all the water and etc. off the actual leather of the shoe. And it, out of all the creams and polishes that we've used, the wax polish is the one that'll bring up a really high gloss. So once again, we'll do 3 or 4 coats. So we'll apply a coat, let it sit briefly, and then buff it off. I'll go ahead and do that. I'll show you the first buff, then I'll bring you back in and show you the end result when we've done the 4 coats. Right, so I'll buff off the first coat of wax polish, just to give you an idea on what it actually looks like. The wax polish always brings up a really good finish. So then I'll go and do the rest of the shoe and rest of the coats. Right, so there we have, after I think we played 4 coats of the wax polish, buffed it all off. The last thing we do, there's a big advocate on, is giving it a final buff off with the stocking mitt that we have. And this is just a brush finish too, and this is a really good shine that's emitted, really nice. G'day all, thanks so much for tuning in. If you made it this far, well done to you. Yes, it's a very detailed video, and I hope it helped you out. Don't forget to have a look at all the other items I have for sale, including my new book, They Came, and all the links to my eBay store are down below. Once again, thanks so much for your time. Bye.